Once, in a kingdom far, far away, nestled between emerald forests and crystalline streams, there lay the realm of Erindor. Its castle, a towering edifice of weathered stone, stood sentinel over a land of rolling hills and golden meadows. Outside its walls, a cluster of cottages dotted the landscape. The bustling market at the heart of the kingdom hummed with life. Merchants hawked their wares, children darted between stalls, and the air was thick with the scent of fresh bread and wildflowers. It was a land of beauty, but also of strife. For generations, Erindor had been locked in a bitter struggle with the barbarians of the Iron Hills, a fierce and warlike people who raided the kingdom's borders with relentless fury. The conflict had drained both sides, leaving scars on the land and its people. But King Edric the Grief-Stricken, a ruler as wise as he was broken, had struck a fragile truce years ago. A truce born not of victory, but of loss. It was sealed on the same night his beloved queen, Elindra, perished bringing their son, Prince Alaric, into the world. With her dying breath, Queen Elindra blessed the infant prince, whispering a prayer that he would grow to be a beacon of hope in a fractured world. In his sorrow, Edric vowed never to remarry and brokered peace, hoping to spare his son the horrors of war. Yet, peace in Erindor was a delicate thing, like a spider's web glistening with dew. Though the great battles had ceased, the embers of hatred still smoldered. Skirmishes erupted along the borders, and whispers of conspiracy slithered through the shadows. Many barbarians, their faces etched with scars and their hearts with vengeance, carried bounties on their heads for the murders of Erindor's generals and soldiers. The kingdom's oligarchs, once revered as guardians, now plotted in secret, their loyalty fraying like an old rope. And the people, though grateful for the respite, knew the truce was but a pause, a breath held too long. King Edric ruled with a heavy heart, his once vibrant spirit dulled by the weight of loss. He spent his days in the castle's high towers, gazing out at the forests where he had once ridden with Elindra by his side. His only solace was his son, Alaric, who bore his mother's gentle eyes and her quiet strength. For in the quiet corners of the realm, the oligarchs conspired, and the barbarians stirred. The truce was unraveling, and the kingdom of Erindor stood on the brink of chaos. But amidst the gathering storm, a spark of hope remained, a hope that would be tested in the fires of betrayal and war. The village of the barbarians lay quiet under a blanket of stars, the fires of the hearths burning low as the night deepened. Valdira, heavy with child, sat by the flickering light of a single candle, her hands resting on the swell of her belly. The baby stirred within her, as if sensing the calm of the night. She smiled softly, her thoughts drifting to Tharnok, her fierce and unyielding love, who had been away for weeks searching for a new place to build their stronghold. A knock at the door broke the silence. A messenger, dusty from the road, handed her a scroll tied with a leather cord. Valdira's heart quickened as she recognized Tharnok's rough handwriting. She unrolled the parchment, her eyes eagerly tracing the words.
My beloved Valdira, the moon hangs high tonight, and I write this by its light, thinking of you and the life we have created together. My heart aches to be by your side, to feel the warmth of your touch and hear the strength in your voice. But know this, my love, I have found the place where our family will grow, where our child will run free under open skies. The stronghold rises near a blue stream that sings as it winds through the green forest. The land is rich. It is a place worthy of our dreams, a sanctuary where we will build our future. The walls are nearly complete, and I have carved our names into the hearthstone, so that all who come after will know this home was built with love. Come to me, Valdira. Follow the old path through the green forest, and I will meet you by the stream. Hurry, my love, for I cannot wait to hold you in my arms and welcome our child into this world. Yours, now and always, Tarnak.
Valdira's eyes glistened as she read the letter again, her heart swelling with joy. She pressed the parchment to her chest, feeling the baby kick as if in agreement. The journey would be long, but the thought of reuniting with Tharnok filled her with determination. By dawn, she had gathered her essentials: a water skin, a dagger, a warm cloak, and a pouch of dried meat. The villagers watched as she set out, her step steady despite the weight of her pregnancy. The old path through the green forest beckoned, its canopy dappled with sunlight and the promise of a new beginning. Valdira walked with purpose, her mind filled with visions of the blue stream, the stronghold, and Tharnok's strong arms waiting to embrace her. The forest seemed to whisper encouragement, its leaves rustling like a lullaby for the child she carried. As the sun climbed higher, Valdira paused to rest, her hand resting on her belly.
Soon, little one, soon we will be with your father, and a new life will begin. A life of peace, far from this petty war.
In the kingdom of Erindor, within the towering walls of the castle, young Prince Alaric sat alone in his room. The room was a gift from his father, King Edric, built with care and whispered to hold secrets. Rumors swirled among the servants that hidden within its walls were secret paths, tunnels leading to places both inside and outside the castle. But no one knew for sure, for the secrets were meant only for the prince. Alaric, just 7 years old, often gazed out of his window, watching the children in the city market play and laugh. He longed to join them, to feel the freedom of running through the streets.
Father, why can't I play in the market with other kids?
You are a prince, my dear. You are safe in the castle.
But Father...
Enough of this. Go to your room.
After yet another plea to join the children was denied, Alaric returned to his room in despair. Bored and restless, he began to jump and play, his small feet stomping on the stone floor. Suddenly, his foot hit a loose tile, and with a soft click, a hidden door slid open in the wall. Alaric froze, his heart pounding. Before him stretched a dark tunnel, its depths unknown. At first, fear kept him from exploring. He found the switch to close the door and spent days thinking about what lay beyond. But curiosity gnawed at him, and one day, he made up his mind. It was the day of the king's court, when the people of Erindor gathered to settle disputes, followed by a festival that often lasted late into the night. Alaric knew his father would be occupied, leaving him free to explore. With a small torch in hand, Alaric opened the secret door and stepped into the tunnel. The air was cool and damp, and the walls were lined with ancient stones. Ahead, the tunnel split into two paths. On the wall, words were carved, but Alaric, too young to read, chose a path at random. Unknowingly, he had chosen the path marked Green Forest. The tunnel led him outside the kingdom walls, into the lush, untamed wilderness. Alaric emerged near a dirt path that wound toward the forest. Just steps away, he saw a horse cart stuck in the mud. A woman sat in the cart, crying out in pain. She was heavily pregnant, and it was clear she was about to give birth. Alaric's heart raced. He tried to push the cart free, but it was too heavy for his small frame. Desperate, he ran toward the kingdom gates, where 2 guards stood watch.
Please help! There is a woman in the forest. She needs help. Come with me, please.
Boy, what is it?
The woman, she needs help.
Should we go and see? It could be an ambush. We can't risk it.
Frustrated, Alaric picked up a stone and hurled it at one of the guards. It struck his armor with a sharp clang.
Catch that boy!
The guard shouted, and they gave chase. Alaric led them through the forest, back to the cart, before vanishing into the trees. From his hiding spot, he watched as the guards approached.
This must be the cart the boy told us about. She's in pain. Hurry. We need to find a midwife.
Before they could act, the sound of hoofbeats echoed through the forest. 3 barbarians on horseback emerged, led by a tall, fierce warrior, Tharnok. He had come to rescue his beloved Valdira. The guards tensed.
Barbarians! We're under attack.
A platoon of Erindor soldiers, passing by, rushed to the scene.
Filthy barbarian! You are outnumbered. Your ambush has led you to your failure. Surrender or perish!
I come in peace, but if the winds of war demand it, I will not hesitate to draw my blade. Know this. When the sun sets and the battlefield falls silent, your wife will kneel not in prayer, but in grief. Captain! The woman in the cart is in great pain. We have sent for a midwife.
Keep your filthy hands off my wife. Your wife, you say? Aye. This is going to be fun. All barbarians have bounty on their head, and with the bounty, we will get a concubine to entertain us. Ha 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 ha!
Enough of this filth. You have sentenced yourself to death.
A battle erupted, swift and brutal. Tharnok and his companions fought valiantly, but they were outnumbered. By the time the clash ended, the 3 barbarians lay dead. Valdira, witnessing the death of her love, was overcome with grief and pain. The midwife arrived too late. Though she managed to save the newborn baby girl, Valdira succumbed to her injuries, her final breath a whisper of sorrow. From the shadows, Alaric watched it all unfold. His young mind struggled to comprehend the bloodshed, the loss, the tragedy. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered to himself,
If I hadn't been so hasty, if I had let them rescue her, this wouldn't have happened. It's all my fault.
As darkness fell, Alaric ran back to the tunnel, his heart heavy with guilt and grief. He returned to his room, the secret door closing behind him. That night, he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The images of the day burned into his memory. He vowed never to speak of what he had seen, burying the secret deep within his heart. And so, the prince's first taste of the world outside the castle became a lesson in the weight of choices, and the scars they leave behind. As the midwife stepped forward, cradling the newborn girl in her arms, the captain of the platoon approached the cart. Valdira lay still, her lifeless hand clutching a letter, Tharnok's final words to her, urging her to start a new life away from the war. The captain's eyes scanned the parchment, and his heart sank. He realized the truth. This was no ambush. These were not enemies, but a family fleeing the violence that had plagued their lands.
What have we done? We've taken the world from this innocent child before she could even see it.
Captain, what are your orders?
Bury the bodies, remove all traces of this fight. I want this incident buried with them. None of you saw anything here. Do you understand?
But, Captain, what of the bounty? The barbarians!
The bounty? You speak of gold while we carry the weight of this sin. We've robbed this child of her mother and father. Damn you, fool. Our greed blinded us all.
Forgive me, Captain, but they were barbarians, our enemies.
Enough. I'll hear no more of it. Take the midwife aside. Pay her well and ensure her silence. Threaten her if you must. This must never reach the ears of the kingdom.
It will be done, Captain.
The captain's gaze softened as he looked at the baby girl.
Prepare a carriage for me, and bring ink and parchment. I must write a letter. Write as if the child herself is speaking. Do not reveal our part in this. At the end, write, I have no one in this world, just as you have no one. Please, if you can, take me as your own.
The soldier scribbled the words, his hand shaking slightly. When the letter was finished, the captain placed it gently beside the baby in a woven basket. He wrapped the child in a soft blanket and whispered,
May the gods watch over you, little one.
As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the kingdom in shadows, the captain donned a dark cloak and carried the basket through the quiet streets. His destination was the home of Alizia, a widow whose husband had been a dear friend of the captain. He had fallen in battle years ago, slain by barbarians, and Alizia had never remarried. She lived alone, her heart still loyal to her lost love. The captain placed the basket on Alizia's doorstep, knocked softly, and retreated into the shadows. Moments later, the door creaked open. Alizia, her hair streaked with silver, peered out. Her eyes widened at the sight of the basket. She lifted the baby into her arms, her face lighting up with a warmth she had not felt in years.
Oh, sweet child.
She noticed the letter and unfolded it, her hands trembling as she read the heartfelt words. By the time she finished, her cheeks were wet with tears.
Vera, I shall call you Vera. You are my daughter now.
From the shadows, the captain watched, his heart heavy. In the quiet cottage nestled at the edge of the kingdom, Lyra had blossomed under Alizia's care. Her beauty was matched only by her keen mind, and though her hands were calloused from labor, her spirit remained unbroken. She managed Alizia's trade with shrewdness, allowing the aging woman to rest while she bartered goods in the bustling market. Yet, despite her success, Alizia fretted over her ward's future. One evening, as the fire crackled in the hearth, Alizia set down her sewing and fixed Lyra with a stern gaze.
Child, you work yourself to the bone. When will you think of your own happiness? A husband, a home.
A husband might keep me happy, but most of the men out there won't be able to provide the freedom to help the orphans and widows of the martyrs. If I choose to marry anyone who does not share my passion for helping, I don't know who will help the less fortunate. A family of my own will surely require undivided attention.
Look, child, I am old now. I know that you can handle yourself, but I want you to have your own home and start your life. You cannot carry the weight of the world alone. Even the strongest backs bend beneath such burdens.
Then I will find someone whose shoulders are as broad as their heart. Until then, I'll build my fortune one coin, one sack of grain at a time.
The sun hung low over the market square, painting the cobblestones in hues of gold. Prince Alaric, disguised in the rough-spun garb of a peasant, moved unnoticed through the crowd. His sharp eyes took in the stalls, the prices, the faces of his people, until they settled on a sight that stole his breath. A young woman with dark hair braided over one shoulder stood by a wooden cart, handing out warm loaves of bread to a cluster of ragged orphans. Her laughter was bright as she tousled a boy's hair. "One for you, and one for your mother, mind you share." Alaric approached, drawn like a moth to flame. He picked up a loaf, testing its weight. It was fresh, still warm from the oven. Lyra turned, her hazel eyes meeting his. For a moment, she faltered. There was something in the way this stranger held himself, a quiet confidence that didn't match his common clothes. For a heartbeat, neither moved. She had the kind of beauty that wasn't just in her features. It was in the way she held herself, the kindness in her gaze. "How may I help you?" she asked, brushing flour from her apron. Alaric found himself smiling without meaning to. "This bread, it's so fresh. May I buy some?" "2 pence a loaf," she said, studying him with a hint of wariness. "A fair price," he mused. "Lower than the market." She tilted her head, as if surprised he'd noticed. "Sell more for less, and the profit still comes." Alaric chuckled. "Clever. I'm impressed." His gaze swept over her remaining stock. "What's the cost for all of these?" She arched an eyebrow. "More than you can afford." "Name the price," he challenged, leaning slightly closer. For the first time, her composure flickered. "If you can feed all these orphans and their widowed mothers, you can have my whole stock," she said, gesturing to the children. Then, with sudden fire, she added, "Or better yet, march to the castle and tell the king to end this damned war." The passion in her voice sent a thrill through him. This was no ordinary merchant girl. She spoke with the frustration of someone who had seen too much suffering. Alaric grinned. "Don't be so quick to judge. What's your name, fair lady?" She rolled her eyes. "Lyra. And stop calling me fair lady. I'm no noble's daughter." "A shame," he murmured, unable to resist. "You'd make a fine princess." "Your generosity may be your undoing," he murmured, nodding at the orphans happily chewing their warm bread. "Even wealthy merchants can't sustain such charity in wartime." Her eyes flashed with unexpected fire. "Should I let them starve then? While the king's war makes more orphans each day and his tax masters grow fat." The prince's lips quirked into an amused smile as he leaned casually against her stall. "Then let me bear this burden today, my lady," he said, his voice warm like honey in sunlight. The way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled made something flutter in Lyra's chest. Lyra planted her flour-dusted hands on her hips, her brow arching in mock exasperation. "First, I'm no lady," she retorted, though her cheeks warmed at the title. "Second, who exactly are you? Some thief in disguise? A noble slumming it in the market? Or perhaps," she added with a teasing glint, "the king himself come to inspect his domain?" Alaric's rich laughter rang through the marketplace, drawing curious glances. "A merchant, I swear it," he said, pressing a hand to his heart in an exaggerated gesture. Though I'll admit I'm still learning the trade. Lyra eyed him skeptically, taking in his strong shoulders and the way his simple tunic couldn't quite hide his noble bearing. You don't look like any merchant I've ever known, she challenged, unable to suppress her own smile. Then what do I look like? He asked, leaning closer, his dark eyes dancing with mischief. Lyra pretended to consider, tapping a finger against her lips. A swindler, she declared. The prince threw back his head and laughed, the sound so genuine and warm that several market-goers turned to look. Before Lyra could react, he produced a heavy pouch from his belt and set it on her counter with a decisive thud. The coins inside clinked musically. "Consider every loaf sold," he said, his voice suddenly tender as he glanced at the orphans waiting nearby. "Give these little angels their fill today." Then, with a wink that sent her pulse racing, he turned and disappeared into the crowd, leaving Lyra staring after him, the weight of the coins in her hand nothing compared to the strange new weight in her heart. Lyra stood frozen, staring at the heavy pouch of coins in her hand. The mysterious stranger had already disappeared into the bustling market crowd before she could even thank him properly. She clutched the pouch tightly, feeling the weight of his unexpected generosity. Who was that man? She wondered, kicking herself for not asking his name. As she mechanically handed out warm loaves to the orphans, her mind kept drifting back to him. The way his eyes had sparkled with amusement when she'd called him a swindler, how easily he'd laughed off her sharp words. Most merchants would have scoffed at her charity work, yet he'd not only approved but funded it generously. That night, lying in her narrow bed, Lyra found herself replaying their conversation over and over. She traced patterns on the rough blanket, imagining what she might say if she saw him again. I should have been kinder, she scolded herself. Less defensive. The memory of his smile made her stomach flutter in a way she'd never experienced before. Across the room, Alizia pretended to focus on her mending, hiding a knowing smile as she watched her adopted daughter sigh and turn restlessly. The older woman recognized the signs of young love but held her tongue. Some journeys were best taken without guidance. Meanwhile, in the castle, Prince Alaric paced his chambers, equally preoccupied. Lyra's fiery spirit and compassionate heart had captivated him completely. Unlike the simpering noblewomen at court, here was a woman who worked tirelessly, not for prestige but to feed hungry children. He'd intended to visit the market again immediately, but decided to wait, let her wonder about him, let curiosity blossom into something more. For 3 days, Alaric watched from the shadows as Lyra went about her work, her movements graceful even when kneading dough, her laughter bright when speaking to the orphans. He noted how she'd occasionally glance toward the market entrance, as if hoping to see someone. On the 4th morning, as dawn painted the sky in soft pinks and golds, Alaric finally stepped back into the sunlight of the marketplace, his heart beating faster as he approached her stall once more. Lyra tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear as she spoke, her cheeks still warm from their earlier exchange. "Thank you for those coins," she said, her voice softer now. "They made a real difference. And I'm sorry for calling you a swindler that day. That was rude of me." Alaric grinned, leaning casually against her market stall. "I've been called worse," he admitted. "Though I do wonder why a man with coin dresses like a commoner." "I prefer it this way," Alaric explained. "When I look like everyone else, people speak more freely. I learn more about what's really happening in the market." Lyra's eyes widened slightly. "Oh, I just realized I never asked your name that day." "Alaric," he said with a small bow. "Alaric," she repeated, testing how it felt to say his name. "My mother always says favor strengthen friendships. You've done me a great kindness. Might I ask another favor of you?" Alaric's eyes twinkled. "Your mother's wise. But friendship goes both ways. I'll need a favor from you in return." Lyra tilted her head curiously. "What do you ask?" "Meet me by the stream this evening," he said simply. Lyra's back straightened immediately. "I'm not that sort of girl," she protested. Alaric held up his hands in surrender. "Just a walk, I promise. We'll watch the sunset, get to know each other better." "Just a walk," she confirmed skeptically. "Just a walk, my lady," he teased. Lyra rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress a smile. "And there's another favor, stop calling me that." Alaric laughed, the sound warm and rich. "What can I say? You carry yourself like royalty." With a final wave, he added, "I'll wait for you by the stream at dusk." As he walked away, Lyra pressed a hand to her suddenly racing heart. She hurried through the rest of her work, the hours dragging until evening. When they met by the water's edge, time seemed to disappear as they talked. The sun dipped low before Lyra finally noticed the darkening sky. "We should go," she said reluctantly. "It's getting late." "Let me walk you home," Alaric offered. Lyra arched an eyebrow. "So you can learn where I live." Alaric chuckled. "My only intention is to ensure you get home safely." As they walked, Lyra gathered her courage. "There's one more thing," she began hesitantly. "They say influence follows wealth. Since you know people in the castle, could you have someone look into the tax collectors? I'm certain they're taking more than the king allows." "You have proof?" Alaric asked, suddenly serious. "Look at their fine houses." Lyra exclaimed. "Men who were peasants just years ago, now dripping in gold." Alaric nodded thoughtfully. "I'll see what can be done." The promise hung between them as they reached Lyra's cottage, the first of many exchanges that would bind their lives together. Days melted into weeks as Prince Alaric, disguised in peasant's garb, found himself drawn to the marketplace. Each morning, he would weave through the bustling crowd, his heart quickening at the sight of Lyra tending her stall. What had begun as curiosity had blossomed into something deeper, a quiet, tender attachment that grew with every shared laugh, every lingering glance. They spoke of simple things at first, the price of grain, the orphans she fed, the way the morning light caught the dew on the market cobbles. But soon, their conversations turned to dreams. Lyra spoke of opening a proper bakery, one that could feed every hungry child in Erindor. Alaric, careful to keep his words vague, spoke of a kingdom where no one went to bed starving. Yet beneath their growing affection lurked a shadow, Alaric's unspoken truth. Each time he opened his mouth to confess, the fire in Lyra's eyes when she spoke of the crown's injustices stole the words from his lips. "The king's men grow fat while the people starve," she would say, her voice sharp with anger. And Alaric would swallow his secret, his heart aching. Still, her words shaped him. The story she told, of tax collectors lining their pockets, of merchants squeezed dry, followed him back to the castle. Quietly, he began to act. Tax masters were replaced. Unjust levies were lifted. The oligarchs, watching their profits dwindle, seethed in silence, until the day they could take no more. The throne room echoed with the sound of polished boots striking marble as the oligarchs marched in, their velvet robes whispering of wealth and wrath. At their head stood Lord Varin, his rings glinting like the scales of a serpent. "Your Grace," he began, his voice slick with false deference, "these reforms choke the life from our trade. If your tax masters cannot collect what is owed, how will the kingdom fund its armies, its roads?" King Edric, weary-eyed, turned to his son. Alaric stood firm. "The people are not beasts of burden to be bled dry," the prince countered. "A kingdom thrives when its people do." Lord Varin's smile was thin. "Then let the barbarians serve as they once did. Their backs were made for bearing burdens." A murmur of agreement rippled through his supporters. Alaric's hands curled into fists. "You would wage war just to fill your coffers with slave labor." "We would wage war," Varin corrected, "to preserve the natural order." The king raised a hand, silencing the room. "Enough. The council will reconvene at dawn. We will settle this then." As the nobles filed out, their displeasure hung thick in the air. Alaric watched them go, his thoughts racing. He had hoped to change Erindor gently, through Lyra's eyes. But the oligarchs would not yield without a fight. And somewhere in the city, unaware of the storm gathering in the castle, Lyra kneaded dough for tomorrow's bread, dreaming of a future with a peasant named Alaric. In the great hall of Erindor, tension hung thick as smoke. The oligarchs and nobles stood divided, their voices clashing like swords. King Edric, weary but resolute, sat upon his throne, his son Prince Alaric at his side. The debate had raged for hours. Peace with the barbarians, or war until their knees broke upon Erindor's soil. "King Edric, what say you, Alaric?" The prince rose, his voice cutting through the din. "You are the king, father, and I am not. But were the crown upon my head, I would have sealed this peace long ago. Look at the cost we've paid, lives lost, children fatherless, widows starving. Our coffers bleed gold for war, while our people bleed hope." A murmur rippled through the hall. Then Lord Varin, the most powerful of the oligarchs, stood, his rings glinting like the eyes of a serpent. "Lord Varin, with respect, your grace, this is folly. The barbarians were once our slaves. The gods made them to serve, not to treat as equals. We are the mighty, they exist by our mercy." Half the council roared approval. Prince Alaric, coldly tell me, my lord, when was the last time you held a sword in defense of this kingdom? When did you bury a son? The nobles do not pay the price of war, the people do. And the empire falters beneath the weight of their suffering. Silence. Then, from the shadows, a voice sneered, "It matters not. The strong rule the weak. That is the way of the world." Alaric's jaw tightened. Then the world is cruel, and it is a king's duty to be kinder than the world. The council dissolved into chaos. Those who opposed the prince stormed out, their loyalty as brittle as old parchment. The king's fear. That night, in the privacy of the royal chambers, the king slumped into a chair, his face lined with worry. "King Edric, gods, what have I done? Without the oligarch's knights, we are vulnerable." Prince Alaric, "Father, why fret? Those snakes will never let the barbarians take their wealth. They'll return when they see their interests align with peace." King Edric, rubbing his temples, and if they don't? If they plot against us? Alaric, softly, then you are still the king. And a king who cannot do what is right is no king at all. With that, he left his father to the weight of the crown. The next morning, King Edric stood before the remnants of his council. King Edric, we will treat with the barbarians, not as slaves, but as men. Let the terms be fair, and the peace lasting. The hall erupted, some in praise, others in hissed dissent. The king's eyes flicked to the empty seats where the oligarchs had sat a day. As he retreated to his chambers, Alaric followed. The king sank into his chair, his voice a whisper. King Edric, gods, what have you made me do? Prince Alaric, what was necessary? But the king's hands trembled. We may have just lost the war before it began. King Edric sat at his ornate desk, the flickering candlelight casting shadows across his tired face. Lord Varin entered with a false smile. I know that your support is important, but the debate was clearly lost by your side, said King Edric, his voice heavy with finality. The people of the kingdom saw it. It is impossible for me to bring back time and make them not see the results. Now the people will never agree to war. But my lord, this is ridiculous, protested Lord Varin, his jeweled fingers clenching. You have made the taxes lower, and we oligarchs can't sustain our fields without slaves. Wage the war before you lose our support. After all, our knights have to fight. Let them fight. You think it is only your knights? Countered the king, his voice rising. The people lose their lands, their crops, and most of all, they are forced into the front lines as bait for the enemy. No, absolutely no. There will be no war. Without the people's support, I cannot force this. I will not invite rebellion. The barbarians are trouble enough. We will go for the peace deal. If you want labor, you will pay fair wages. Lord Varin's lips curled into a slow, cunning smile. My lord, it is you who takes the decision, he said with exaggerated deference. And if you are taking a step away from war, then who are we to oppose your will? With that, Lord Varin swept from the chamber, leaving the king to sink back into his chair, his face lined with unease. Deep beneath the city, in a chamber lit only by guttering torches, hooded figures whispered the cult's motto to gain entry. Their blood for our gold, and for our gold, their blood. Once assembled, Lord Varin addressed the shadowy congregation. We are the sages of the shadows, he declared. None of our identities are revealed to each other, and all of us are permitted here only upon reciting our sacred words. Thus we remain hidden, not just from the kingdom, but from one another. A murmur of agreement rippled through the gathered conspirators. Only I know who stands among us tonight, Varin continued, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. And I tell you this, within our ranks walk palace guards, nobles, and even those the king calls his closest advisors. Betray us, and you will face the consequences. He drew forth a dagger forged of enchanted ice, its edge glinting lethally in the dim light. Tonight, this blade will find the king's heart. By dawn, it will melt away, leaving no trace of the weapon that struck him down. He raised the dagger high. All in favor of this decree, say aye, came the unanimous, hushed response from the hooded figures. The conspiracy was set in motion. By midnight, an assassin would enter the king's chambers, and the reign of Edric the Peacemaker would end in silence. The day after the bitter council dispute, Prince Alaric went to the marketplace, hoping to find solace in Lyra's company. But her stall stood empty, the wooden counter bare. His heart clenched with worry as he waited hour after hour, until the sinking sun confirmed she wouldn't come. Driven by concern, he slipped through the winding streets to her cottage. As he neared the window, Lady Alizia's frail voice carried through the thin walls. "My child, I am too sick to recover," the old woman whispered. "You're going to be fine, mother," Lyra protested, but her voice broke with tears. "No, my time has come," Alizia coughed weakly. "Before I go, you must know the truth. You are not my daughter." Alaric saw Lyra's face drain of color through the window. "But mother, you're the only family I have." Lyra gasped, clutching Alizia's hands. "These were your first words to me, in the letter," Alizia rasped, pressing a yellowed parchment into Lyra's shaking hands. "This is all I know of your true parents." "Farewell, my child," Alizia murmured, her trembling hand stroking Lyra's hair one last time. "May God bless you with a loving partner. I wish I could see that day." Her hand fell limp. A heart-wrenching scream tore from Lyra's throat as she shook Alizia's still form. Alaric burst through the door without thinking. Lyra looked up with wild, tear-flooded eyes and pointed helplessly at Alizia's body before fleeing outside, where neighbors soon gathered to comfort her. For days, Lyra became a ghost of herself. Alaric took charge of the burial arrangements while she sat motionless in grief. When the stream of mourners finally dwindled, he found her one evening staring blankly at the cold hearth. "Lyra," he said gently, kneeling beside her. "Come walk with me. Staying here drowning in sorrow will only make your mother sad in the hereafter. She'd want you to live." After long silence, she gave a numb nod. They walked to the stream where fireflies danced over the water. Halfway there, Lyra suddenly patted her dress pockets. "The letter," she gasped, pulling out the crumpled parchment. "Read it to me," she begged, pressing it into Alaric's hands. "It's her last gift." As Alaric's eyes scanned the words, his blood turned to ice. The letter described that fateful day, the dying barbarian woman, the slaughtered warriors, the royal guard's brutality. The woman had been Lyra's mother. The fallen warrior, her father. And Alaric, he'd been the child whose innocent mistake sparked the bloodshed. His hands trembled as Lyra collapsed against him, her arms wrapping tightly around his as sobs racked her body. He swallowed the confession, burning his tongue. Now was not the time. Not when she clung to him like he was the only solid thing in her shattered world. As dusk deepened, Lyra's crying subsided into exhausted sleep against his shoulder. Alaric carried her home, her feverish brow damp against his neck. When he tried to lay her in bed, her fingers caught his wrist. "Stay," she murmured, half delirious with grief and fever. He brushed sweat-dampened hair from her face and nodded. Through the long night, he kept vigil by her bedside, watching the moonlight trace silver paths across her tear-stained cheeks. The prince who loved her, the unwitting architect of her sorrow, the man who now carried truths that might destroy her all over again. The assassin moved like a shadow through the torchlit corridors of the palace, his steps silent against the cold stone. The 2 guards stationed outside the king's chamber nodded. They had been paid handsomely to look the other way. Inside, King Edric slept fitfully, unaware of the blade that would end his reign. The ice dagger struck true, plunging deep into the king's chest. A guttural scream tore through the night before being abruptly silenced. The assassin barely had time to yank the weapon free before the same bribed guards burst in, swords drawn, not to protect their king, but to eliminate the evidence. Realizing he too was meant to die, the assassin hurled himself through the chamber window, landing hard on the outer wall before vanishing into the sleeping city. By dawn, dark clouds hung heavy over the palace. Lord Varin arrived with theatrical urgency, his cries of grief echoing through the halls. He found Prince Alaric cradling his father's lifeless body, his face a mask of devastation. The prince killed his own father. Varin bellowed, his voice carrying through the corridors. The king is dead, murdered by his son for the throne. Before Alaric could defend himself, Varin's conspirators seized him, dragging him to the dungeons. The trial was a farce, judges bribed, evidence fabricated. Within 2 days, the prince was condemned to death. In his cell, Alaric awaited execution when the clink of keys broke the silence. An old army captain stood at the bars, his face weathered but kind. "We know you're no killer," the captain whispered, tossing Alaric the keys. This was Varin's doing. But without proof, we must buy time. "Survive, my prince." Alaric frowned. "Your face. I know you." The old man's eyes softened. A boy who couldn't bear a stranger's pain wouldn't kill his own father. Memory struck Alaric. This was the captain from that fateful day in the forest, the one who had spared the orphaned Lyra. Disguised in a guard's armor, Alaric slipped through the palace, but shouts arose as he fled into the storm-lashed night. The chase led him to a cliff's edge, where Varin confronted him before a growing crowd. "How dare you, you wretched son?" Varin spat. "Your greed drove you to plunge an ice dagger into your father's heart." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Alaric seized the slip. "How do you know what weapon was used?" Varin's face purpled. "Seize him." "Look, people of Erindor, your king's killer spoke his plans out," said Alaric. With no other choice, Alaric leapt into the raging river below. A knock startled Lyra from her grief. She opened her door to find Alaric drenched and desperate. "Did you hear?" she whispered. "The king is dead, and they say his son." Alaric clamped a hand over her mouth as another knock came. He mouthed, "Hide me." Lyra, though shaken, pointed to a hidden compartment behind a cupboard. Alaric barely fit inside as she answered the door. A soldier thrust a wanted poster at her. 10,000 coins for the prince, dead or alive. When the door shut, Lyra turned to Alaric, her voice trembling. "Why?" "Not now," he begged. "We must flee." Under cover of storm and shadow, they escaped the city, their fates now bound by secrets and sorrow. The forest swallowed them whole, leaving Erindor and Varin's lies behind. The howling wind drove Alaric and Lyra into a shallow cave, its moss-covered walls offering scant shelter from the merciless rain. As they caught their breath, the weight of unspoken truths hung heavier than the damp air between them. Lyra turned to him, her eyes reflecting the faint moonlight. "Why didn't you tell me you were the prince?" she demanded, her voice barely above a whisper yet sharp with betrayal. Alaric ran a hand through his rain-soaked hair. "I wore the disguise only to observe the marketplace," he admitted. "I never meant to form attachments until I lost my heart to you." "But we were close," Lyra protested, her fingers curling into fists. "You should have trusted me." "Every time I tried," Alaric said softly. "You spoke with such fury about the oligarchy and the elites. I feared losing you if you knew the truth. And I tried, God knows I tried to address each grievance you raised, to prove change was possible." Lyra paced the narrow space, her bare feet scraping against the stone. "I hated them, yes. The way they squeezed the people dry while waging endless wars. But the king, he was our only hope. When he allowed the conflicts to continue." Her voice trailed off. "You must believe me," Alaric said, gripping her shoulders. "I didn't kill my father. This is Varin's doing." Lyra searched his face, the truth dawning in her eyes. "Then how do we prove it?" "I don't know," Alaric admitted, releasing her. "But Varin will use this chaos to attack the barbarian settlements. We must warn them." Lyra's spine straightened. "Then we go to the barbarians." "My lord," she caught herself, dipping into an awkward bow. Alaric groaned. "Stop that. You're a free woman. There's no need for such submission." "But the scriptures say." "Rubbish," Alaric cut in. "Just call me Alaric." Lyra opened her mouth to protest, but the prince's commanding glare silenced her. "Yes, my Alaric," she corrected, flushing. As the rain eased into a drizzle, they stepped back into the night. The path to the barbarian land stretched before them, fraught with danger. But for the first time since their flight began, they walked as true allies, the weight of crowns and class momentarily forgotten in the face of the greater threat looming over them all. The journey through the dense forest was brutal for Lyra. Her feet, unaccustomed to such harsh travel, blistered and ached with every step. Alaric, hardened by years of royal military training, moved with ease, but his concern for her grew with each pained breath she took. Then it happened. Her foot slipped on the rain-slicked leaves, and in her desperate grab for stability, she caught Alaric's arm. The muddy ground gave way beneath them, and they tumbled into a deep pit, the walls too steep to climb. Alaric shouted for help, his voice swallowed by the vast wilderness. Frustrated, he slammed his fist against the dirt wall. Lyra, seeing his anger, sank to her knees, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. "This is all my fault. You stayed with me the night your father was killed. You lost everything because of me. And now, look at me. I can't even walk without failing you. Are we going to die here?" Alaric rushed to her, gripping her shoulders. "Don't blame yourself," he said firmly. "And don't worry. Maybe God put us here so you could rest." Gently, he pulled her feet into his lap, ignoring her weak protests. His touch was careful, his eyes steady. In that moment, the prince and the baker's daughter were no longer separated by rank, only by the truth still unspoken between them. As he tended to her wounds, he asked softly, "If you were your own judge, what crime could you never forgive?" Lyra gave a teary, bitter laugh. "A lie, or a hidden truth, or loving me." She wiped her eyes. "That last one is the worst crime of all. And the punishment is being stuck with me forever, even if forever is just one more day." Alaric smiled, but the smile faded quickly as he had made his mind to confess the truth. "Do you remember the letter your mother gave you?" he began. Lyra nodded warily. "Remember the boy who told the guards about the woman in the cart?" "Yes. That was me," he confessed, his voice low. "I saw it all happen, your parents' deaths, your birth. I swear, I never meant for any of it. I was just a child. I thought the guards would help." Lyra recoiled as if struck. She yanked her feet away, scrambling back until her shoulders hit the dirt wall. "Your riches, your palaces." Her voice trembled with rage. "You elites have no mercy for the powerless. No one is coming to save us, and in our last moments, this is what you tell me." She choked on a sob. "How many more truths are you hiding, Alaric?" He reached for her, but she shoved him away. "Let me be," she snapped. "The first time we met, I called you a swindler. Maybe I was right. You've worn too many faces." A tear slid down Alaric's cheek as he turned away, giving her space. The silence between them was heavier than the pit walls. Then they both heard hoofbeats and they both froze. Alaric motioned for silence as Lyra held her breath. The riders seemed to know exactly where they were. A shadow loomed over the pit's edge. "No animal here." A rough voice mused. "But wait, what do we have here? A girl and a boy." A barbarian's laughter rang out. "Should we pull them out?" Lyra instinctively pressed against Alaric, who stepped forward, shielding her. "We come in peace," he declared. "We need to speak with your elders. Your settlements are in grave danger. I am Prince Alaric of Erindor, and I've come to warn you." The barbarians burst into laughter. "The Prince of Erindor?" one sneered. "Then we kill you now and end the war before it starts." "You don't understand," Alaric insisted. "If you don't listen, your families will be slaughtered." The barbarians exchanged glances. Finally, one nodded, tossing down a rope. But their mercy ended there. As soon as Alaric and Lyra climbed out, rough hands bound their wrists. By nightfall, they were tied to a tree, given only scraps of food and sips of water. Dawn would bring their trial. And with it, either salvation or execution. The morning sun cast long shadows across the barbarian settlement as Alaric and Lyra were dragged before the council. The chief sat upon a stone-made throne, his face unreadable. Nearby, an ancient woman sat motionless, her eyes hollow with grief, a revered figure among the people, silent for years. "So," the chief's voice boomed, "you claim to be the prince? That alone could send you to the gallows. If true, your death would avenge our fallen kin." Alaric swallowed hard but stood tall. "I come in peace. The king is dead, murdered by conspirators. War is coming, and I came to warn you." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "Why should we believe you?" the chief challenged. "Prove you're the prince, or this is a trap." Just then, a messenger burst in, gasping, "The king is dead, slain by his own son, who fled the kingdom." The chief rose, triumphant. "Then we kill the prince and end this bloodshed." Lyra lunged in front of Alaric, shielding him. A gasp rose as the ancient woman suddenly stirred, rising for the first time in years. The crowd parted in awe as she shuffled toward Lyra, her gnarled hands trembling. "Valdira," she whispered, cupping Lyra's face. "My daughter, where have you been?" "No," the chief protested. "She's the enemy." The old woman's voice cracked like thunder. "Silence! Look at her eyes. She is my blood." The chief recoiled. The resemblance was uncanny. With a grudging wave, he ordered Alaric taken to the cells, while the old woman led Lyra away. In the dim light of the elder's hut, Lyra learned the truth. The woman was her grandmother, mother of Valdira, the barbarian woman who had died in the forest years ago. Lyra, the child miraculously spared, had returned home. When the chief stormed in, he spat, "Another crime for the prince's list. From childhood, he's been a devil." Lyra stood, eyes blazing. "You're wrong. He's no murderer. The oligarchs killed the king. In fact, Alaric opposed the war. We came to warn you." The chief scoffed, but Lyra's words carried weight. "Then let him prove it," he growled. "We'll spare his life, but not without punishment." The moon hung low over the barbarian settlement, its silver light filtering through the cracks of the crude prison where Alaric lay bound. Bruises marred his face, and his muscles ached from the rough treatment, but it was the weight of his secrets that had wounded him most deeply. He heard footsteps, light and familiar. "Well, well, well," came Lyra's voice, laced with playful mockery. "The swindler, caught and bound." Alaric lifted his head, wincing as the movement pulled at his injuries. Even in the dim light, he could see the teasing glint in her eyes. "They've beaten me to a pulp, and now you come to mock me," he grumbled, though there was no real bite in his words. "No," she said, kneeling beside him. A small chuckle escaped her lips, the first since his confession had shattered her trust. "But I must admit, I'm rather liking what I see." Her fingers brushed a strand of hair from his forehead, her touch feather-light. "Perhaps I should have you beaten up more often. It keeps you in line." Alaric exhaled, half laughing, half groaning. "Cruel woman." "Oh, you haven't seen cruelty yet," she murmured, her voice dropping into something softer, more intimate. "I was going to let them execute you. But then I realized your crimes are far too great for something so simple." He met her gaze, his heart pounding. "And what crimes are those?" "Lying to me, hiding the truth, making me love you despite it all." Her thumb traced the curve of his cheekbone, wiping away a smear of dirt. "If I were the judge, what would you say in your defense?" Alaric's breath caught. There was no jest in her eyes now, only warmth and something deeper. Something that made his chest ache. "I am guilty," he whispered, bowing his head. Lyra's smile was tender as she drew a knife from her belt. Then, Alaric, I sentence you." The blade flashed, slicing through his bonds in one clean motion. "Life imprisonment. In my heart. Even if that life is only a day long." The ropes fell away. Alaric rubbed his wrists, his eyes never leaving hers. "A harsh sentence," he murmured. "The harshest," she agreed, her voice barely above a whisper. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. Then Alaric reached for her hand, pressing it to his chest where his heart beat wildly. "I won't help them wage war," he said firmly. "But I will end it. Let me speak to the chief." Lyra nodded, her fingers tightening around his. "Then let's finish this. Together." And in the quiet of the prison, with the moonlight painting her face in silver, Alaric knew. No crown, no kingdom would ever matter more than this. At dawn, the barbarian army assembled, weapons gleaming. Alaric addressed the chief. "Let me end this without bloodshed. I know secret paths into the palace. If I take the crown, the law binds them to obey." The chief sneered. "Why should we trust you?" Lyra stepped forward. "Because the people hate the oligarchs as they robbed the kingdom to strengthen the army for attack. They'll rally to him." An informant nodded. "He speaks truth. The kingdom is at the kingdom's gates." Alaric and Lyra shared one last glance before parting ways, his fingers brushing hers in silent promise. The air hummed with tension as Lyra vanished into the crowd, her barbarian guards disguised as common folk, while Alaric slipped into the forest shadows toward his secret passage. The tunnels beneath the castle were cold and dark, but Alaric moved with purpose, his heart pounding not from fear, but from the thought of her, Lyra, out there stirring the people's anger against the oligarch's tyranny. As he emerged into his old chambers, the distant roar of the mob reached his ears. He rushed to the window, and his breath caught. The square below teemed with people, their torches like a river of fire. At their center stood Lyra, her voice ringing clear above the chaos, her words igniting the crowd's fury. She was magnificent, a storm wrapped in peasant's cloth, fighting for their future. Alaric turned toward the throne room. The crown awaited. But as his fingers grazed the royal diadem, a blade flashed in the dim light. "Well, well, Prince," came Lord Varen's venomous voice. "This will be your last mistake. I'll gut you like I did your father." Alaric barely dodged the knife, rolling across the floor as Varen lunged again. With a desperate leap, Alaric seized the crown and placed it upon his head. "No one is here to take your orders, your majesty," Varen sneered. But then, footsteps. The barbarian guards, now clad in stolen armor, burst into the hall. At Alaric's command, they seized Varen, but the cunning lord fought back, recognizing their foreign movements. The struggle was brief, brutal. When it ended, Varen lay still, his reign of treachery over. For a terrible moment, the kingdom held its breath. Had barbarians conquered them? Then Alaric stepped onto the balcony, his father's cloak billowing behind him, the crown glinting in the sun. A deafening cheer erupted. Peace was declared. Weeks later, the castle gardens bloomed as never before, petals scattering like blessings upon the path where King Alaric knelt before Lyra, the love of his life. "Will you be my queen?" he asked, his voice raw with emotion. Lyra's laughter was sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Their wedding day dawned golden. As they stood before the people, Alaric proclaimed new laws: fair wages, abolished slavery, rights for all. The barbarians, once hunted, now stood as equals in the crowd, their scars no longer marks of shame but of survival. And when Alaric stood with his queen, the people cheered not for a royal union, but for them, the prince who chose justice over power, the peasant who taught a kingdom to hope. Years would pass, children would be born, and the tale of Alaric and Lyra would be told in every hearth and hall, a story of love that didn't just bridge worlds, but remade them. For in the end, the greatest revolution had not been won in battle, but in the quiet moment a king and queen shared a loaf of bread, remembering the market stall where it all began.